From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. We begin with news from Venezuela, where President Nicolás Maduro sat down for an exclusive interview with teleSUR just over a week before he's sworn in for another presidential term. This interview was with VTV and Ignacio Ramonet, not teleSUR. Among various topics Maduro spoke on was the role and the disintegration of the opposition in the country. He says he continues to welcome a dialogue with any representative of the country's opposition.
Another clear indication were the sad scenes they showed when they had to register their candidates for the presidential elections of May 20th. They complied with what was ordered of them from the international right-wing groups and from the North American imperialistic forces. This has unfortunately caused their demise, because Venezuela needs an opposition and a political opposition force. I have called for there to be dialogue over 400 times. I maintain this. Any actor from the opposition in their current situation who would like to speak to me has an open door, an open mind, and a willingness to speak about the future of the country. I think that sooner or later in Venezuela there will be political conversations which will be diverse and include all political and ideological forces of that opposition. I keep faith, and I will work so that there will be a fruitful political dialogue in Venezuela in 2019. This will hopefully allow to rebuild a political opposition that the country requires in order to have tranquility, peace, and a diverse democracy, which is what we yearn for.
And President Maduro also spoke on the effects of the economic blockade and what he called a persecution of many aspects of the economic life of Venezuelan citizens.
They're persecuting us in the purchases that we make in products worldwide. This includes food and medicine. It is a brutal persecution. What they are doing to Venezuela is frankly criminal. A financial blockade. Yes, I would say that it is more than a simple blockade, because sometimes a blockade is done simply to stop you from going somewhere. I put down an obstacle and you can't go further than that. But this is more than a blockade, it is a persecution. Persecution to our bank accounts, to the business that Venezuela carries out with the world. Persecution to commerce, to purchases. Euroclear withheld in 2018 for $1.4 billion, which we were going to use to buy medicine, consumables, to buy food, and nobody says anything at all. We have reported this to the UN, to the General Secretary of the UN. I have reported this to the different organisms. You reported this in UN speech, of course, and nobody says anything. So we have to fight to free ourselves, to release ourselves from the shackles of this persecution and this huge blockade.
teleSUR spoke with Nicaragua's Foreign Minister Denis Moncada on Tuesday. He rejected the interventionist move by OAS head Luis Almagro to promote the application of the Inter-American Democratic Charter on Nicaragua.
We have made an appeal to all Latin American and Caribbean governments for their support to ensure that Almagro's push is avoided, to put a stop to his bad intentions and a legitimate, legal stance, and interventionist stance. With his stance, Almagro is dragging Latin America governments towards a behavior which violates international rights and the OAS own charter. We need to reflect very seriously on Almagro's behavior, which is leading to a nihilistic stance and an anarchist approach of destruction of that forum, which is composed of the member countries of the organization.
And Moncada also said that the Secretary General is in fact supporting a coup in his country.
Almagro, rather than supporting a constitutional and legitimate government like ours, is doing on the contrary. He's doing the reverse. He's accompanying, cooperating with a coup, and those who are attempting a coup d'etat by breaking the order constitutional, by breaking the democratic order, precisely to change a government by the de facto way. By the unconstitutional way, that is what the coup plotters are doing, or at least what these groups attempted to do in Nicaragua, though they were neutralized.
Now to Brazil. Among the decrees signed by the new president Jair Bolsonaro, one will allow the government to supervise and coordinate NGOs and international organizations' activities. This measure would mean a restriction to work for many of them. This temporary decree will expire unless it is upheld by the Congress within 120 days. This is part of a large number of unpopular measures taken by Bolsonaro on his first day as president. Brazil's new defense minister has been sworn in. Former military general Fernando Azevedo e Silva is one of 7 ministers with a military background in Bolsonaro's government. Azevedo e Silva was the high commander of the army and went to military reserve in 2018. Bolsonaro also took time to recognize Army Commander Eduardo Villas Boas as a key figure who aided him in coming to power. Bolsonaro assured that while it was Azevedo e Silva who was given the Ministry of Defense, Army General Villas-Boas will also remain very present. Despite the clear presence of military in the new cabinet, Villas-Boas said that he wishes to depoliticize the armed forces. In Mexico, a man has been arrested in connection with the murder of Mayor Alejandro Aparicio, who was gunned down in the southern state of Oaxaca. According to reports, the newly elected official was on his way to the town hall for a meeting and was killed an hour after taking office. The accused is the only suspect in the case, but locals are calling for an in-depth investigation, believing there may be others involved. Aparicio was a member of the president's Morena party.
They
have to do everything possible to clarify this murder, because there can be no impunity. That's what we are asking for as a family, to clarify this and to support us.
There can't be any impunity for a killing of this type. The people in this town detained the assailant, and he was handed to the prosecutor. Today, the prosecutor has the suspect in detention, and we hope that very soon there is a precise investigation into the assailant, because there was not just one person involved. The suspect wasn't the mastermind. There are others behind this case.
We have more stories coming up. We'll be back. Welcome back. After meeting Bolsonaro in Brazil, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo met with Colombian President Iván Duque on Wednesday. They talked about migration and organized crime. Pompeo reassured financial aid on issues of immigration in Colombia. And Duque thanked the United States for its help fighting the increase of cocaine production. Both met in the Colombian city of Cartagena to commemorate 200 years of diplomatic ties.
We will continue to work with you, Mr. President, side by side, to achieve our joint objectives to cut coca cultivation and coca production by 50% between now and 2023. We know we must do our part to reduce demand in our country, and we'll work alongside you here as well.
Social organizations and victims of the conflict in Colombia have mixed views about the special jurisdiction for peace after 6 months of operating.
One of the issues at the heart of the peace agreement is the extrajudicial court system known as the Special Jurisdiction for Peace, where persons who committed various crimes during the armed conflict are tried.
The signatories of the peace treaty have reiterated the measures outlined in the peace accord, among them the right to real justice, reparations, and guarantees to avoid repetition. In that sense, 2019 will be the year to move forward and continue to bring to fruition the measures agreed to in the peace pact there. And a fundamental component of the agreement is the special peace jurisdiction.
When it comes to the special peace jurisdiction, some analysts are taking a decidedly wait-and-see approach. This is because paramilitary groups are happy about it.
The next step is for the court to make public the outcomes of cases which have already been tried. The challenges so far have been many. There are still a lot of hurdles to overcome, especially with the current government and specific demands coming from all sides. But so far, overall, the court has been functioning fairly well, and hopefully an agreement can soon be reached with the prosecutor's office.
Victims of state crimes in particular still face many challenges under this judicial system.
The court, in delivering justice, must treat perpetrators of state crimes just as it would those who have committed other serious criminal acts. We've not been seeing this, and this is why there is no end to the killings and injustice. You see, in many instances, the masterminds behind these state crimes are persons from the upper echelons of society.
The Special Justice for Peace closes this year with 32 ex-combatants having appeared before the courts. This includes ex-combatants of the FARC. Also, two state military commanders like Torres Escalante and Mario Montoya. Crimes against indigenous people and extrajudicial executions have been a priority of investigations.
The Chilean government will apply the security law against those who perpetrate severe violent acts, according to the Interior Minister. Andres Chadwick said they are seeking a more efficient answer to confront actions that risk the security of people. This despite the fact that he's been asked to resign after the killing of a Mapuche social leader by police during a protest. Communities are worried about a rise of violence and illegal arrests. The Araucanía region has experienced a rise of violence due to conflicts between the police and Mapuche indigenous communities. And the trial of the police officer in Chile who severely injured a young indigenous Mapuche man with a shotgun has begun after a delay of nearly 2 years.
Different social organizations demand justice for Brandon Hernandez Huentecol, the Mapuche man whose case has long been delayed.
We know that the Chilean National Police Force is an institution that protects offenders in their ranks. It's an institution that is willing to use their resources to protect these people, as we, as feminists, have seen this in other cases.
The incident happened 2 years ago when Second Sergeant Christian Rivera shot Brandon with a shotgun, leaving almost 200 pellets in his body. The young Mapuche man was shot from a distance of less than 40 centimeters, and it destroyed his hip. He has undergone more than 15 operations so far, but about 80 pellets cannot be removed from his body. The lead in the pellets will continue contaminating his organs and causing him pain.
We do not regard this as a simple case of negligence, but as a constant institutional attack against the Mapuche community in the Valmaipo region. Therefore, we want to show support for Brandon Hernandez Huentecol, who is part of the Mapuche community.
This is Christian Rivera. He is backed by the Chilean National Police and insists that he shot Brandon accidentally during an operation in the community.
Soy la mamá de Brandon, al niño que balearon ustedes mismos hace 2 años.
Since December 18, 2016, Ada Huentecol, Brandon's mother, has confronted police officers who have continued the harassment, even until just a few hours before the trial finally began. Ada and her family, until the moment that changed their lives, did not participate in the Mapuche movement and were isolated in a Christian community in Curacao, in the south of the country. It was there where carabineros arrived to control Mapuches as part of their campaign of repression. The youngest son came out to look, they stopped him, Brandon tried to intervene, but was turned upon with weapons of war.
He hit me with his gun, and afterwards I get up and ask him to calm down, because we were doing nothing wrong. My brother was watching everything. They had him on his knees, pointing a revolver at him.
His only crime being part of the Mapuche community.
When the carabinero drew his weapon, I heard that it was loaded, and I said, "Why is there a bullet in there?" And that very moment he shot.
That's why they're asking for punishment to the full extent of the law and a reappraisal of the crime as attempted homicide in a case that for the Mapuche community, above all,
the government of President Evo Morales has established new priorities in Bolivia. There will be a multi-million-dollar public investment program, a reduction of bureaucracy, and fighting against corruption.
President Evo Morales started 2019 with a cabinet meeting. It wasn't just his ministers in attendance, but also vice ministers, directors, and managers of public companies. He gave the order to reduce bureaucracy.
Our responsibility is to improve, and reducing bureaucracy is part of that. I cannot accept that after so many years, we still have long queues of people. The minister and vice minister must be there to solve these kinds of problems.
After 8 hours of debates, the Bolivian government also agreed to continue fighting corruption.
We proved in 2018 that we won't defend or hide any kind of corruption in whatever shape or form it comes.
The third priority of the government is to make multi-million-dollar public investments. The state will spend more than $8 billion to guarantee stability and economic growth.
Public investment, as you know, has become the engine of our economic growth. Analysts and economists have recognized that this is what has sustained the growth of our GDP.
Over the past 4 years, Bolivia placed itself among the top 2 countries with the best economic growth on the continent. With an average of 4.5%, international organizations have calculated that this year Bolivia will be the country with the best GDP growth in the region.
Bolivia's justice minister has said that the facts are very clear in a case of an 18-year-old girl gang rape known as the Bolivian Wolfpack. Héctor Arce said on social media that justice must be impartial and should not benefit or harm either party in the case. He also added that in this alleged rape case, the facts were very clear. The statement comes after a forensic report was published in which it says that the victim was not raped by 5 men last December. The 5 men arrested in Argentina for allegedly gang raping a 14-year-old girl have denied their crime. Those arrested are between the ages of 21 and 23. The attack took place in the coastal city of Miramar, and according to police reports, the girl's parents found her drugged in a tent surrounded by alleged perpetrators. The 5 appeared in court for the first time this Wednesday, accused of aggravated sexual abuse. They will remain detained until the end of the trial. In Argentina, workers' unions and the truck drivers' union are preparing to take measures against the tarifazo announced by Mauricio Macri's government. 3 major trade unions are set to hold a press conference this Thursday to announce actions to be taken against the rate hikes to public services and transport. They plan to maintain a state of alert and are planning to mobilize against Macri's neoliberal policies. They also intend to raise a collective voice against layoffs and the financial measures imposed by the IMF. In Ecuador, the former Vice President María Alejandra Vicuña will testify on Monday over allegations of corruption against her. Vicuña resigned on December 4th after she was accused of bribery. She went back to her previous position at the country's tax institution, which she joined in 2007. She had requested an unpaid leave for the past 9 years, to which the government said it was illegal. The Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, has held talks with the leader of the opposition over the island's strong security measures. They discuss security and crime management. The opposition rejects non-emergency security measures in several parts of the country. Holness said the government is working to guarantee improved security and to finally end the public state of emergency. The government and the opposition will meet again on January 7th to continue the dialogue. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, the Electoral Commission said it expects the results of Sunday's presidential elections to be delayed. The Commission's president made the announcement at a meeting between the election observer team from the African Union and the candidates. He said this is due to slow delivery of ballot boxes to tallying centers. And tensions are high amid the counting, with former President of Mali leading the African Union's observation mission.
We told them to face up to their responsibilities and that Africa has its eye on you. Make sure we are not disappointed.
In Nigeria, at least 18 people have been killed after armed men attacked 2 villages in the state of Samufara. According to security sources, armed men in a convoy of motorcycles stormed 2 villages and started shooting people. The attack comes less than 10 days after 17 people were killed in a similar manner in the area. The state has recently been rocked by intercommunal violence over access to land. We'll take one last break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Following an agreement with the Kurdish combatants, the Syrian army has taken control of the northern city of Manbij. The city was handed over following the Turkish government's threats of a possible offensive against Syrian Kurdish forces in northern Syria. The agreement includes control of the strategic Tishrin Dam, one of the country's main sources of electricity. The U.S. military remains in border areas near Turkey, despite President Donald Trump's recent announcement of a troop withdrawal. Trump said that the troops will remain in Syria for the time being under the pretext of protecting Kurdish factions in the country.
But we want to protect the Kurds, nevertheless. We want to protect the Kurds. But I don't want to be in Syria forever. It's sand, and it's death.
An Iraqi Kurdish activist is on a crusade to eradicate female genital mutilation, widely practiced in Iraq's autonomous Kurdistan region. Rasul, who herself went through the process at a young age, challenges the perception that genital mutilation is mandated by Islam. She also warns midwives about infections and the emotional trauma that the practice causes on women. Victims of genital mutilation are usually between 4 and 5, but could be affected for years due to bleeding, reduced sexual sensitivity, childbirth complications, and depression.
In light of the law combating domestic abuse, we are presenting a seminar for women in this village revolving around the harm of female genital mutilation from legal, religious, and social aspects, as well as explaining the health damages female genital mutilation causes.
Conservative groups in India have paralyzed several states as they protest against the decision to allow women to enter a Hindu temple. Hundreds of protesters took to the streets in the state of Kerala with the support of conservative political parties. Stores were closed, bus services were halted, and taxis refused to take passengers. This comes after 2 women successfully entered a temple on Wednesday. In September, the Supreme Court suspended a ban on menstruating age women to enter the temples. Chang'e 4, China's probe, has made history by landing on the previously unexplored far side of the moon. The mission will analyze the moon's terrain and mineral composition. Photos have been taken of the far side of the moon before, but no spacecraft has ever landed there.
With Chang'e 4, of all the different kinds of programs, through everyone's hard work, despite the big risk involved, the majority of experts wish to put Chang'e 4 on the far side of the moon.
And NASA has released images of what it claims to be the most distant object encountered by humankind up until now. The ice mass is shaped like a snowman and was spotted 6.5 billion kilometers away from the Earth. NASA confirmed on Tuesday that its spacecraft flew past the object, located in the solar system's outermost region. The previous record of the most distant space exploration was the encountering of planet Pluto back in 2015. And with that, we end our news brief. For this and other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurenglish.net. And we're also on social media, so go ahead and follow us. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.